Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron Legrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Ron Legrand here to thementorpodcast.com. If you haven't already signed up for it, do it now at thementorpodcast.com so we can get you on our reminder button every single week. It's all free, and all my past interviews have been logged on, have archived on that site. So, all right, I have next to me Shawn Moore. His expertise is, of course, making money like all the rest of us, but today we're going to talk about Airbnb. Is that right, Shawn?
That's right. That's our world that we live in.
Well, I think you can probably better define what you're going to talk about than I can. So,
well,
tell everybody
we'll do our best. You've been doing this for a long time, so you might articulate better than I do. But it's I told you before we hit record, it's a real honor to talk to you, Ron, and be on the podcast. You've been a staple on my bookshelf, the books you've written for the past 24 years. I've been doing this full time for 24 years, and this is my 25th year. And a lot of my education came from you and the books you wrote back in the day, and now still today doing it. And so it's really awesome. And my background and my career started with really just figuring out. As a kid that didn't have a lot of money, was very intrigued by real estate, wanted to do better, wanted to do more, spent lots of my waking hours in Barnes & Noble, and that's where I was introduced to you and a lot of your concepts. I wholesaled a couple deals. I started doing fix and flips. I would start getting really interested in, I know what you talk about, buying on terms, selling on terms, and really understanding that game of being able to, the multiple ways to make money with that. And I did that for a good decade before we started to get introduced and kind of into the world that we're in right now, which is short-term rentals by accident. I was doing well, and we were just buying vacation homes. We were buying second homes and putting them on local classifieds and Craigslist, and because this was way before Airbnb, way before Vrbo was ever even a thing, and started to realize that there was a little bit of it was another avenue for us to make money with real estate that we liked, that we enjoyed, right? Nice properties, nice areas, vacation homes. And it was at that point where, we did it, for a little while, and then the crash of 2008 hit, and I was in development at the time, and
so was I.
Yeah. And so how that was with some of those deals that we were in the middle of getting entitled, and all of a sudden it was, before you knew it, you were upside down fast.
I had 21 projects in 9 different states, all development.
Yeah. So I don't need to tell you how bad that hurts. And it was a tough time for us. We were, everybody was scrambling, and we were, at that back in the day, I was really aggressive with the Burr method, and I would pull money out tax-free and refinance, and all that stuff looks great on paper until the table turns, right?
That is exactly right.
And so it now, a lot more gray hair later and a bald head under my cowboy hat. I'm a lot more conservative. I don't over leverage properties as much. But the interesting part for me during that time is I actually short sold my personal house. I lost a lot of vehicles. We were everything was leveraged. We were highly leveraged, and our back was against the wall and started losing stuff. And this property that I had a vacation home that actually did really well. And on the weekends renting out, and it lost value like everything else, but I was making monthly income from it. So I was able to keep it plus make a little bit of money. It was actually a profitable property for me. Well, fast forward to about 2012 to 13, we started looking back and thinking, man, this might be a really viable asset class. And we started trying to figure out, taking a lot of your type of teachings and being able to build a portfolio with passive income and not over leveraging and being a lot more conservative. And it was allowing us to take some of these strategies into a brand new avenue of real estate, which was at the time short-term rentals. They still were not mainstream. They still were not, Airbnb was around, but it was kind of urban couch surfers, and Vrbo was coming around, but it was just not mainstream like it is today. And we started getting very attracted to it, though, because we enjoyed them, and we started taking all the kind of the foundational real estate knowledge that we learned from guys like you and applying it to this asset class, and started building a portfolio. And we started kind of that became our niche. That became the asset class that we played in. I didn't do development deals anymore. I didn't do fix and flip. So I started getting very interested in vacation homes and lifestyle assets, as we call them. And one thing led to another. And before we knew it, we started helping people with this. We started doing very well. And as you know, a lot of people start to say, hey, I had no intentions of ever being a coach. Back in, when I was doing this, I was just an investor for a long time. And people ask you, hey, can you show me how to do this? Hey, what are you doing here? How are you buying these vacation homes that, how do you have all these homes all over? And you must be this, multi-millionaire and everything else. I'm like, no, actually a lot of people just are paying for them. We're making some money just like you would a long-term rental. And people are paying for these nice homes that we get to use occasionally, and we're making money with them. And they were attracted to it. And we started, one thing led to another, and kind of wrote a book and started helping people with it. And now we've become one of the top vacation home investor training companies, the top one in the nation right now. And it's been really fun. And it's been really fun watching this asset class grow up. And, that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's great when one, for us on the real estate side, foundationally, we've been through a few shifts. I got in during that .com crash, and I went through and learned a lot of lessons, mistakes that we made, over leveraging and swinging for the fence too much, and getting caught with our pants down during the recession, right? And learning a lot of lessons, but also watching an asset class become really mainstream. By 2018-19, Airbnb short-term rentals were becoming very popular. And then obviously COVID hits, and they absolutely just skyrocketed, right? And that was when a lot of people were introduced to short-term rentals as an asset class. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. It was awesome that everybody was introduced to it. The bad thing is everybody was introduced to an asset class during a period of time that was never going to last. Supply and demand gap was very, very wide. There was way more demand than there was supply. Having a short-term rental during that period of 2021, 2022, when most people were introduced to it, it was like having toilet paper during COVID. Everybody made money, and everybody started to forget about the fundamentals. You've been around long enough that when there's massive run-ups on anything, people forget about the fundamentals. They forget about over leveraging. They forget about what it actually takes to succeed and operate in an asset class that is going to stabilize. Supply is going to catch up with demand, which it has in short-term rentals. And
always does.
Right. It always does, right? That it's cyclical. And so you have to say, okay, we have to dial in the fundamentals. And that was a tough thing for our business. It was a good thing with the run up, but it was also tough because, nobody really needed to learn how to operate, and the market has shifted, and you hear the thing about Airbnb bust and the golden age of short-term rentals is over. And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of properties in the short-term rental game that just don't make money anymore. And, 80% of the properties out there are, just barely getting by or negative cash flow, and 20% of the properties are making all the money, which is normal in a lot of mainstream asset classes and mainstream businesses. And people are just starting to realize that. And so it's kind of coming back to the point where we have to, if we're going to play in this type of a game, because it's so mainstream, there's a lot of moving parts with regulations, with the high cost, with low inventory, with all these different things. But I know you we don't love distress, but as an investor, it's always an opportunity when there is kind of some pain in the marketplace. And right now, there was a lot of people that bought a lot of nice properties trying to ride that wave, and the wave went out and they don't know what to do with them. And there's a lot, like, we're picking up properties with literally with the teachings that I have in your book. I've pulled out some of the older books even that I'm buying, like we used to buy on terms, sell on terms. And we're finding that even in those low inventory markets, because of the niche we played in, and there were so many people that dove into some of these vacation home markets, there's a lot of really nice properties in nice areas with good terms, and people saying, I got to get rid of these things, and it's a very interesting asset to be in right now and be, and I know, sorry, I got long-winded on you, but kind of wanted to give you the background on where we're at, what we're kind of seeing.
You're repeating my life story, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's it's hard to the ups and the downs are there. The cyclical nature of the business is there, and sometimes the things that we learn and the things we talk about now, Ron, is not real exciting to that person that really wants that quick win. But the reality is we understand what has lasting power and lasting things that you have to really watch out for. And that's what we're seeing in the short-term rental game as well.
Well, we got 20 minutes. We better tell everybody what short-term rentals means.
Yeah. So those of you that don't know, short-term rentals are like, most people call them Airbnbs, right? They're vacation homes typically. They're properties that are rented on a daily, nightly basis, maybe a weekly basis, and where you're renting them fully furnished, really nice setup properties that you're going to rent to people that are coming in for short stays, and that's where and that's a lot more work, frankly, than a long-term rental. If these properties worked as a long-term rental, we would long-term rent them all day long, right? I hear people all the time say, if it doesn't work out, your plan B can just long-term rent it. Well, the numbers probably don't work as a long-term rental, right? And you have to make a lot more revenue because there's a lot more work. There's a lot more management. There's a lot more headaches with short-term rentals. But essentially, that's what you're doing. You're in the hospitality game now. And that's what short-term rentals really have become.
A short-term rental is what back in the past was a hotel room.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
They do not have to be in a tourist area.
No.
Because people are going everywhere and I need the short-term rentals, and most of them will take the short-term rental over a hotel if they're going to stay there a few days, especially. Yep. So, Shawn, you're in it for the long-term monthly cash flow, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. This is short-term rentals, but long-term investments for us.
Yeah. Maybe it's not an investment at all. I'll give you an example. This past week, man, just this past week, we've had 5 sellers call us and practically beg to come buy our house and take over their debt.
Yep.
And they all have the same things. Number one, they're leveraged pretty close to the max, which would be all right, except at the higher rates they're paying, the payments getting a little high. And I don't think any of them needed any work. If they did, they didn't need much. That must be at least $1.5 million worth of real estate that I'm looking at. I mean, I'm telling you, they beg us if we get to come on and buy it because they need to get out of that payment. So we are heading into a different time. I have been through 6 cycles now, and I have learned that the cycle is what the interest rates or who's president. People always want to buy a house. Other people always want to sell a house. So the market's going down. Short-term rental is just one of the cash flow machines that we use nowadays. I've never had one, to be honest with you, Shawn, but I've been wanting one for one or more for a long time and just haven't gotten around to it. So they're all over the place. Do you find that you have better luck with them when they're in tourist places like Orlando or Vegas or wherever?
Not always. What's really, really important is you have to have a major profit driver. Many times we think of the major tourist areas, the theme parks, the beaches, the mountains. Those are always very popular. We need to know that there's a certain amount of demand, right? There's got to be demand. Just like if you were going to go invest in a development, you're looking for what are what's the industry that people are buying or moving there? Why are people living there, and what businesses are around? We look at the same things on the short-term rental side. We just need to have demand. But what people forget about is demand comes in a lot of shapes and sizes, and it can be a college town, for example. It could be medical centers. It could be a lot of different things that bring people in, convention areas, cities that have conventions. However, the bigger the city and the more options you have for hotels, the more you're competing with hotels. What's been very interesting with short-term rentals now is a lot of these areas and a lot of these destinations have been opened up where there's not enough demand for a Hilton or a Marriott to go build and develop a hotel there or put it there. They don't have that kind of demand, but there's people that visit there, and there's enough demand for us as short-term rental owners to go in. And so some of those, I call them backyard resort communities that are, an hour or 2 drive from a major metro area, and the only people who go there are in that region. Those are really, really good markets, and they don't have to be the Orlandos of the world. They don't have to be, the major beaches, the major ski hills, the major mountains. They can just be outside of state parks, and they can be college towns that are small college towns, but it's a major profit driver because you got a university there bringing a lot of people in and out for sporting events, graduations, all kinds of things. And so we look for a certain amount of demand, but we're not always looking for the biggest market that everybody has heard of, because we have limited inventory, right? We have 30 days a month that we're trying to book. And so we don't need millions and millions of people to book 30 days a month.
Your overall average of booking is what? What percent?
Usually around, you need to be somewhere, like most markets are going to be somewhere around 50%, 55% occupancy. That it's, a big myth in the game that you have to be somewhere at 80 or 90% occupancy to operate. That's a very, very rare to be able to hit that high of occupancy. If somebody's talking about 80 or 90% occupancy, that's a immediate red flag. They haven't been doing this for very long. And yeah.
So, what site you use to put these things up on? Airbnb, or you got another one?
Yeah. So there's two factors. There's three things you really have to dial in with short-term rentals, because you have to understand the real estate side of it, but you also have to understand the business hospitality side of it, right? And so you have to have a really good property in a good location. You need to understand underwriting. You need to understand those profit drivers we're talking about. You also, the next thing, and this is where a lot of real estate investors are the final two things that they're not used to doing that often, is creating a unique experience for a target audience. What real estate investors make the mistake is they think if they have a really good property in a really good location, it's just going to sell itself. So you have to be very, very good, because we sell experiences. We don't sell properties. And you can go tell, if you go on Airbnb, Vrbo, those major OTAs, it's really easy to stand out in the crowd because most people just blend in. And if you take those listings, if they were going to sell those properties, most of them could just literally take those same pictures, put them on Zillow, sell their house, right? Our properties, you're not going to do that, because it would be weird, because you're like, I don't know what they're trying to sell me here, right? It's this crazy experience. You have to be very good at setting up an experience, but also articulating it on the marketing side. And so where we use those major OTAs, they've built those businesses, and they've got millions of eyeballs, people that are intentional buyers that are wanting to book properties. Absolutely, they're huge leverage points for us as short-term rental investors, but it's also very, very, as an investor, prudent for us to build our own book of business, right? Instead of just borrowing somebody else's customers all the time. It's important for us to understand how to, on the marketing side, really direct marketing, internet marketing, being able to stand out on, an unintentional audience on Instagram and Facebook and those things. And so you're really having to learn how to run a business, and you have to have a customer experience department. You've got to have a marketing department. You have to very much understand skill sets that a lot of real estate investors don't really run down that road very often.
No, but I've been around for 43 years now, and I'm running down that road every day.
Yeah, but most of it, Ron, most of them run down it a lot of times on the lead gen to buy properties, right? So they understand it, how to attract sellers, and they use that. They understand that marketing. Now they have to learn how to apply it to sell the product that they've got as well.
Yeah. Well, unless you're buying the house, then the seller's got no say so. Most people don't buy the house, though, do they? Or do they, in your experience?
A lot of people don't buy the house. No, they don't. A lot of people in our game, they try to run down the co-hosting or arbitrage, which is, renting a property and then, subleasing it back out, or teaming up with property owners and saying, hey, listen, I'll take kind of be the management partner for you. And so, we only run down the ownership model. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. There's way too many moving parts if I don't have the benefits of actual ownership, the appreciation,
so you
the
buy
tax
them.
benefits. We always buy them. Yeah.
Instead of sandwich leasing them.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, that's a good thing, because now you've got more than cash flow. You got appreciation, depreciation, debt pay down, debt pay down. And you've also got, what your best guess is, do you think you get 50% maybe more rent Airbnb in them, or just plain rent them?
Yeah, you probably gross make 2 to 3 times rent, sometimes even a lot more than that. But your net is going to be significantly higher too. But there's a lot more moving parts, and there's a lot more work to earn that extra money. So I think that's kind of the big, kind of the easy button, flash in the pan. Here's the marketing, is you make way more money with these. Well, yeah, you do make a lot more money, but you're going to work a lot harder for it as well.
Well, not necessarily. Some smart guy wrote a book called The Less I Do, the More I Make.
Yeah. You've heard of that guy?
I heard it, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all about delegating everything.
Right.
Which is what I do to this very day.
Right.
And in other words, getting out of your own way. Maybe you can get yourself more units. But listen, it was 5 houses I told you about that I got in the last week. Every single one of them, I pay closing costs to get in them and own them. buy them on a wrap their loan. Now they're all low equity, so it wasn't much for them to argue about. And you get out of it for one reason or another. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of all the houses that I bought that could be Airbnb, and then I don't want to think on that too hard.
Yeah, and you might think, and that's one thing that you going back to kind of delegating. That's one thing that is like, I don't manage any of my own homes. I'm the only guy that I know of in our space that teaches people how to do this, that tells people hire management partners. The reason is because I don't want to have a second job, and there is a lot more to do on. And so we always have management partners. We always have a team. Now my cash flow is less because in the short-term rental game, management's going to run you about 30% of your gross revenue. And so all of my other competitors and everybody else out there says, oh, you should just manage these properties on your own. And because if you remove 30% expenses off the top line, those numbers look a lot better on paper. But I know from the reality of doing it for as long as we have, I just don't necessarily want that second job. I'm not looking for that second job. So to your point of, hey, how can you scale and do it where other people are doing it? It just costs you more money to do it. But I'm okay with that. I'd rather be able to buy more properties, let other people manage it, do what they do well, and I do what I do well.
Did I hear you just say that you have about 30% operating cost?
Yeah, on the management, just on the management side, is a
management.
variable expense. Yeah.
Why do you pay them a management fee? I mean, why do you have them? You need somebody to go do turning around all that, but you can hire that pretty much any place. So why are you paying somebody just to collect rent and send it to you?
So
they do.
with management on short-term rentals, there's a lot more than just getting it cleaned and turned over, right? If you're really going to operate toward the top of these markets, you've got to have a team that's basically a 24/7 concierge. The bar has been risen so much in this game, and it's a very interesting game because the consumer expectation has been developed to where everybody wants the Ritz-Carlton experience, the Waldorf, and even if they're paying Motel 6 prices. And so, but that Ritz-Carlton experience has a lot of concierge services involved, and it's a 24/7 concierge. And so your management partner allows you to have a life, and then they become the 24/7 concierge. Obviously, they're going to do a lot of the marketing on Airbnb. They're going to communicate with the guests. They're going to coordinate with the maintenance. They're going to coordinate with the cleaners, making sure everybody has a great experience. But there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that. And your management's going to be, now in some of your major markets, you might get away with a good full service management company because at 15 to 20% because it's a lot more competitive of a market. But when I underwrite deals, I underwrite 30% on the management side that will cover a lot of those different things. And it's divvying out to multiple people, right? And so that's kind of our all-in cost on management.
So you have all of your own management? Are you hiring management? I mean,
we hire managers. I love boots on the ground, boutique managers in the areas that we're in. Again, I want a very boutique, concierge, personalized service for our guests, but it also allows us to get our unfair share of business. The money is made at the top of the market, and if you're not willing to invest in that type of service, again, we're not in the real estate business. I'm in the experience business, and I make money, and people will pay me more than my neighbors because I have that type of a service in place. So it's very important for me, at least in my system and process, to have localized, boots on the ground, concierge services available for my guest.
Well, Shawn, I see a book sitting there.
Yeah,
what's that all about?
Yeah, it's called "What the Hell is a Lifestyle Asset? How to Build Lifestyle Financial Freedom Investing in Vacation Homes." So what we're talking about, right? We've broken it down and how you can really get your unfair share advantages in the acquisition phase, which is all about underwriting the right property, the right market, understanding how to create and develop a unique experience and get that delivered through management so it doesn't become a second job, and then how to market these properties to get your, to pay those bills. And we'd love to offer that to your listeners absolutely free if they just go to vodacy.com. We've got a place where they can grab a copy. We'll send them one for free, and they can download the digital version right out of the gate.
Okay, I'm going to put one condition on that.
Okay.
If you order the book, you got to read the damn thing.
I would love to emphasize that condition.
I got a whole bunch of books behind me. I haven't read any of them,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna get around to it one day.
Right? Yeah, I'm with you. Read them. Do what I do now is listen to them. I always get the hard copies, but I listen to a lot of them now.
All right. I don't know what happened to my screen. Oh, there it comes. So, you got any last ideas you got to get out of here before we get off there?
No, I think that if I could, for your listeners, I know that there's a lot of great guests on here. I know your principles that you teach in real estate are very foundational. And I think that it's very important to have the foundational understanding of how to generate business, generate seller leads, be able to find good properties, find good markets on a regular basis. You've got to have good deal flow. Don't ever ignore that fact, because we have a lot of people that call us that just want to get into short-term rental investing. And I always try to back them up and say, listen, understand the fundamentals of acquisition, understand the fundamentals of deal flow, all of those different things so that you can apply it to whatever passive income vehicle or whatever asset class you run down. They all have pros and cons, and trying to really understand those foundational principles are important in the very beginning, though.
All right. What's the biggest mistake you made so far in this business?
Is swinging, like trying to get the home runs. My biggest mistake was early in my career, trying to get the big wins too early. I've learned that we make a lot more money going a little bit slower, kind of that Navy SEAL saying we always live by is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And so we look for base hits. And we just know that a lot of base hits turn into home runs. When I have swung for the fences too much, it's risky. We put our backs against the wall. I've been caught with my pants down a number of times, specifically during that last downturn. And so I would say trying to do too much too fast and biting off more than we could chew. I know when you're young, you think that's a super valuable trait, and I like it. I want to be aggressive. I want to keep moving forward. I want to take chances, but take calculated risks in the real estate business, because if you do, those base hits turn into home runs pretty quickly.
Well, I got a saying that I like to repeat 20 times in a meeting. If you learn how to buy houses properly, you don't need money and you will never use credit.
Yeah.
I haven't used credit since I can remember buying houses. Invest in a little time on learning the business. Now, you have an event that you want to tell them about when you send them a book, right?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be participating in your event coming up into the end of March. We have events called the Boardroom HQ events that we do at the end of every month here at our headquarters in Utah. And so, and they're always posted on our website. When we send the book, you'll find the upcoming events that we've got on the schedule. Some of them are very topic based, some of them are very general. And so just look at that schedule on the website.
Okay. All right. So to enter this business, I just need the training. I don't have to have a lot of money. I got to have some. How about furnishing the house? A lot of them come with the furniture, don't they?
A lot of them nowadays do, which is really nice. Yeah. And so, but yeah, you want to make sure that you've got a budget for that. It's usually going to be somewhere around 10% of your acquisition cost if you're going to have to furnish a house from scratch when you acquire a property. And so that'll give you an idea of your budget. And that is, that's an out-of-pocket expense. That's not a lot of these properties that are sold furnished, it's a huge savings because, these properties are beautiful. A lot of times they're already set up like model homes.
Okay, so my steps are go on Airbnb.com, look what's going on around in your market or whatever market you want to put this unit in, and then target that market with some marketing. You can use all kinds of that. Must include mailing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then see what you can get in that area, and go to work getting the property from the seller, and I promise you, you get a lot of them for free. Yeah. Using my script. Here's how we get them how we get them free using my script. The first question is on if we can agree upon the price. When I come out to your house, if we agree upon the price, are you ready to sell now? And get the paperwork out of there. We don't get a yes to that, and why go? The fourth question is, well, we usually buy with nothing down, okay? And pause and wait. Only one or two things are going to happen. And no, then I would say, well, how close to nothing can you get? It's amazing what words do. 5 houses in 1 week, all same, pretty much. Take over payment and nothing with closing costs getting in. And then the fourth question is, the fourth step, I'm sorry, is getting the contract signed and getting out to the house. And the last one is fill it up quickly. And that's what I like about Airbnbs. They're not taking long to fill up. I mean, if you got a decent house outside of a war zone and so forth. But don't forget, you can always rent the house. And if a lot of folks that I know are actually leasing the house with the option to buy, putting a tenant buyer in it, and then deciding later whether they want to actually buy the house.
Yeah.
Which I hope you're not going to go down to the bank and borrow the money to buy one of these houses, because it's against the law. And if it ain't, it should be. Ron said that's the worst thing you want to do.
It's against the law. Next time I go apply for a mortgage, right?
Yeah, you got to go apply for a mortgage. You better get in a boot camp and learn how to do it right without going for a mortgage.
Exactly.
Plus, I can buy 10 times more houses without a bank than I can with a bank.
Yeah.
In addition to that, how long is it going to be before they're going to cut you off? Then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Learn how to do it right. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time here. I better give my website, hadn't I? Just go to ronlegrand.com. All right, Shawn. Did I ask you where you live?
I live in northern Utah, up in the mountains in Utah. So I'm up by the ski resort areas in Utah.
That beautiful place.
Yeah, we love it.
All right, sir. I'll see you on the summit. And I think you even got a all-day or 2-day seminar coming up, don't you?
Yes, sir. We do. We do a monthly. So yeah, we're excited about that, and I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
How many days?
2 day.
2 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do two day webinars every month.
Are there webinars?
Sorry, 2-day seminars. They're workshops. We call them Boardroom HQ, where people fly into our boardroom here in northern Utah, and yeah, we like the live ones.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you're going to send them that information, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, sir, for giving us some of your time, and I'll see you in the very near future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate you.
Thank you all. Stay tuned.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.